very much. Good evening. May I introduce at the piano the very distinguished pianist, composer, and linguist, the Enid Blyton of English light music, Donald Swann.
Good evening.
I must be Michael Flanders, obviously. We write songs. I write the words, Swann here writes the music. We wrote these songs originally for other people to sing, which they did, but not nearly enough. And so a few years ago we began to sing and talk about them ourselves, and that is what we're here to do tonight. We've been wandering around all over the place since we saw you last. We went to America, New York. We spent 2 delightful years in America, entertaining the Americans, whose need, let's face it, is greater even than yours. And then, of course, when we're over there, we say that the other way round. We went to Canada, and we were in Switzerland, which was interesting too. They didn't understand a word, but they loved it. It was very interesting to see the homeland of so many great English actors. This year we've been touring England's depressed areas, and may I say what a pleasure it is to be here in London. My goodness, it is, isn't it?
I think so.
I'm very delighted to hear
with every word
I must say, wandering around, just trying to get his bit in, wandering around, things have come to a pretty underpass here in England while we've been away. It's small wonder to us that satire squats hoof in mouth under every bush. The purpose of satire, it has been rightly said, is to strip off the veneer of comforting illusion and cosy half-truth. And our job, as I see it, is to put it back again. Thank you. With this in mind, we offer you some more of our respectable songs for responsible people under the title of At the Drop of
Another
Hat. Well done, you got in there, bang on, yes, marvellously. Well, don't you say I never let you get a word in, will you? Word in edgeways, like fish slice. Well, I think we're all assembled here, double bookings sorted out, so let's start with the first song. This is a sort of test piece. It doesn't count, as usual. Swann has moved since we saw him last. As some of you will know, he used to live in Prince of Wales Drive, Battersea. But since he became a great star, he thought this wasn't really very suitable. And he now lives in Albert Bridge Road, Battersea. It's getting on for Clapham Common. Not that it matters very much where you live south of the river now, because as you know, under the new London plan, they're lumping all those areas together. Going to call them Brighton. I still live in what is, I believe, soon going to be known as Chelsington, very pleasant area, and being at home has its problems. This song is a ballad of unending domestic upheaval. I'm sure you've all had something of the same experience. It's called The Gas Man Cometh.
'Twas on a Monday morning the gas man came to call. The gas tap wouldn't turn, I wasn't getting gas at all. He tore out all the skirting boards to try and find the main, and I had to call a carpenter to put them back again. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. 'Twas on the Tuesday morning the carpenter came round. He hammered and he chiselled and he said,
Look what I found. Your joists are full of dry rot, but I'll put them all to rights.
Then he nailed right through a cable and out went all the lights. Oh, makes work for the working man to do.
'Twas on a Wednesday morning the electrician came. He called me Mr. Sanderson, which isn't quite my name. He couldn't reach the fuse box without standing on the bin,
and his foot went through a window, so I called the glazier in. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. 'Twas on the Thursday morning the glazier came along with his blowtorch and his putty and his merry glazier song. He put another pane in, it took no time at all, but I had to get a painter in to come and paint the wall. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. 'Twas on a Friday morning the painter made a start. With undercoats
and overcoats
he painted every part, every nook and every cranny. But I found when he was gone, He painted over the gas tap and I couldn't turn it on. Oh, it's work for the working man to do. On Saturday and Sunday, they do no work at all. So it was on the Monday morning that the gas man came to call.
Well, we now turn to number 2 on your song sheets. Don't strain your eyes trying to read them, though, because I shall be telling you exactly what comes next. In any case, these rather fanciful titles that we print on the programme bear no relation to what we're going to sing. It's a dead waste of a shilling, as far as don't even get green stamps, either. Well worth collecting those stamps, my goodness. You know, that really is a very nice suit. What you wear and where you live, the right label and the right address, is really only part of this desperate chasing after social status, which is driving so many of us to the very brink of neurosis. It has, in fact, been calculated that in this country alone, over 30% are subclinically neurotic, or as a psychiatrist would say, stark staring bonkers. Over 30%, just think, that's every third person. Happily, there's only 2 of us. This song is about status symbols. It's called Sounding Brass. Society frowns on blowing one's own trumpet. Oh, for goodness sake, would you believe it? But we found a game that merits no rebuke.
If someone's got a tub, we're gonna thump it.
It's more fun than playing polo with the Duke.
The object is to gunga din your neighbour.
I'm a better man than you's the acid test.
So man the good ship one up. Let's do a social ton-up and bang our status symbols with the best. 2, 3, 4. Playing on the status symbols, laying out the ready cash. Bigger, better, newer, smarter, here the status symbols clash. My phone number's X-Directory, should you wish to make a call.
Mine is even more exclusive.
More exclusive?
I won't have a phone at all. You can always try cabling me. Mick Flann, England.
I have colour television, though it can't receive a thing.
I've a midget tape recorder hidden in my signet ring. Hidden in my signet ring. I've a laundress comes in daily to my flat in Marble Arch.
Oh, my laundry's flown to Cairo.
Flown to where?
Where they don't use so much starch. I believe my butler's butler has appeared on Face to Face.
I lost both my Botticellis when they robbed my country place.
I've been asked to sing at Salzburg in next year's Fidelio.
I've been asked to screen Lord Denning for security, you know. My car registration number's 1111 VIP.
All my garage doors fly open when I murmur sesame.
My car horn goes ah-eh, ah-eh. Your car horn goes ah-ah-ah.
I've just bought a Mini Super.
All of what?
The Mini Super!
Yes, I've got one in my boot.
Laying on the status symbols, laying out the ready cash. Bigger, better, newer, smarter, here the status symbols clash. Hell has just been taken over by a friend of Charlie Claus. We've acquired a private furnace, bigger, hotter, far than yours.
Thank you very much. We promised you another hat, and here it is. I bought this last year when I was on the Franco-Spanish border in the tiny principality of Andorra. It's worn like this, with the peak, the brim at the back, you see. And it is, in fact, the distinguishing mark, the proud distinguishing mark of the Andorran Olivador, or olive stuffer. How many of you, I wonder, as you toy with a dry martini at the bar, have thought of the romance that lies behind the simple stuffed olive, or have witnessed, as I have, the almost unbearable drama of a corrida de olivas, or festival of olive stuffing. In Andorra, every boy hopes that he too will grow up to be one of the truly great Olividados. And each year in fiesta time, people come to watch this traditional sport from as far afield as Cadiz, Madrid, or by air ferry from Leith, as I myself did. Let me now try to recreate for you something of the atmosphere of a corrida de olivas. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the stands in the great Plaza de Olivas are packed with spectators. And excitement mounts as the band strikes up a paso doble, announcing the grand entry into the arena of the Olivador. He is closely followed by his assistants, the picador, with his pick of sharpened wood, the matador with his small round mat. They bow to the Presidente Municipale, or mayor, in his box, who gives the signal for the trumpet to sound and the first olive to be wheeled in. A gasp goes up, for this is no ordinary olive. This is the giant, pendulous Oliva Brava, specially bred for the ring in the rugged foothills of Andalusia. A corrida de olivas is divided into 3 parts, or tercios. First, a tercio of quites, or passes. Here, the olivador, keeping the rest of his body entirely motionless, passes the olive from hand to hand, trying to soften up its tough outer skin in a bewildering series of Veronicas, naturals, media Veronicas, Veronicas reverso. All this before the hypercritical eye of the aficionados, each with his bottle of Aficia lemonade. The trumpet sounds a second time, this time the tercio de banderillos, and now it is the turn of the picador. Planting his feet firmly together in the sand, he holds his picks at arm's length and prods into the olive, trying to determine whether the stone runs true up and down, or whether it's set at an angle favoring one side, the dreaded Oliva Revoltosa. The trumpet sounds a third and last time for the tercio del muerte, the moment of truth. The Olivador bows again to the Presidente, saying to him, "I dedicate to you this olive." He then places it on his knee, murmuring a prayer to St. James of Compostela. He takes the pica and raises it high above his head. All is hushed. And then, in one sudden movement, he brings it jabbing down into the heart of the olive. And a great cry goes up of, "Ole! He has made an ole!" But before the gutted olive can fall to the sand, it's caught by the matador on his mat, dragged out of the arena and handed over to the estafadores, who are of 2 types, the estafadores pimentos and the estafadores anchovas. Their dread work done, it is distributed among the poor. No olive is ever allowed a second time into the arena. And woe betide the olivador whose olive is revoltosa. For then, at the moment of pica, the pick, glancing off the angled stone, will jab hard into his own knee. A cruel sport. Some may think it so. But this is surely more than a sport. This is more than just a vital art form. What we have experienced here today is total catharsis in the acting out of that primeval drama of man pitted against the olive. And as the sun sets over the now empty Plaza de Olivas, nothing is left but a few footprints in the hot sand, with here and there a telltale smear of olive oil. And one is reminded of those immortal words of Garcia Lorca in the Roy Campbell translation. "All lust and life must pass away to make a cocktail canapé." And this hat, This hat was introduced by perhaps the greatest Olivero of them all, Flaminguez. Flaminguez it was who at the very moment of pica would give a deft twist of the wrist which sent the sharp olive stone flying high into the air. And this peak is to stop it going down the back of the neck.
Thank you. But our Swann has another song, that's right, isn't it?
I have, my dear.
My dear chap, good. It's a foreign song, isn't it?
It is still a
It's not
foreign.
not in Greek, by
No,
any chance.
no.
Well, I'm delighted to hear.
This one's in Russian. Yes, it's in Russian. Here it is, actually. It comes from my family collection of, well, I have a quite considerable family collection. This is an example of Caucasian cafe chantant. And it's called Verbludi. Well, I have to translate this as I go along. It's called In the Desert. Стоит пустый in the desert. Один верблюд идет. A camel is approaching. А другой верблюд идет. Another camel is approaching. Третий верблюд идет. A third camel is approaching. Четвертый верблюд идет. A fourth camel is approaching. Пятый, шестой, седьмой, восьмой, девятый, десятый верблюд идет. A fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th camel. Целый караван верблюд идет. A whole caravan of camels is approaching. Один верблюд ушел. One camel moves on. Другой верблюд ушел. The second camel moves on. Третий верблюд ушел. And the third. Четвертый верблюд ушел. Пятый, шестой, седьмой, восьмой, девятый, десятый верблюд ушел. Целый караван верблюд ушел. The whole caravan of camels has moved on. Один верблюд отстает. One camel is lagging. Один верблюд отстал. One camel has fallen behind. Один ушиб ногу. It has hurt its foot. Очень жалко ему. What a pity. Стоит пустый in the desert.
It has long been my earnest wish to improve the standard of the music we have in these shows of ours.
Thank you very much.
Not at all, my dear. There's nothing, you know that nobody has a higher opinion of your work than you do yourself. I simply meant we should have some more good music. And to this end, I have been practicing the horn, or French horn, as they call it. German horn, as the French call it, not to be confused with the cor anglais. It's a marvelous instrument. I took it up because I very much wanted to play the music of Mozart, in particular his wonderful horn concerto in E-flat, Köchel rating 495, which he wrote at the age of about 18 months. He's a marvelous man. I practiced it very hard against considerable opposition, I may say, and I had hoped this evening to give you the very first performance of the last movement, the Rondo Allegro Vivace. Owing to curious circumstances, as yet unexplained, I am not able to do this. I can only tell you why. I once had a whim and I had to obey it, to buy a French horn in a second-hand shop. I polished it up and I started to play it in spite of the neighbors who begged me to stop.
develop my embouchure, I found my horn was a bit of a devil to play. So artfully wound to give you a sound, a beautiful sound, so rich and round. Oh, the hours I had to spend before I mastered it in the end. But that was yesterday, and just today I looked in the usual place. There was the case, but the horn itself was missing. Where can it have gone? Hasn't anyone seen my horn? Where can it have gone? What a blow! Now I know I'm unable to play my allegro. Who swiped that horn? I bet you a quid. Somebody did, knowing I found a concerto and wanted to play it, afraid of my talent at playing the horn. For early today, to my utter dismay, it had managed to wait like the dew in the morn. I've lost that horn. I know I was using it yesterday. I've lost that horn. Lost that horn. Found that horn. Gone. There's not much I willingly pay a reward. I know some hearty folk whose party jokes pretending to hunt with the quad. Gone away, gone away. Was it one of them took it away? Will you kindly return that horn? Oh, where is the devil who pinched my horn? I shall tell the police I want that French horn back. I miss its music more and more and more. Without that horn, I'm feeling sad and so forlorn. I found a concerto and wanted to play it this way. My talent at playing the horn, but early today, to my utter dismay, it had totally vanished away. I practiced the horn and I wanted to play it, but somebody took it away. I practiced the horn and was longing to play it, but somebody took it away. My neighbour's asleep in his bed. I'll soon make him wish he were dead. I'll take up the tuba instead. Wah, wah.
Thank you very much. I should warn you, he wrote 2 more in E flat alone. Next time we'll take the festival hall. One of the great problems of the world today is undoubtedly this problem of not being able to talk to scientists because we don't understand science. They can't talk to us because they don't understand anything else, poor dears. This problem, I think it was C.P. Snow first raised it, Sir Charles Snow in private life, in his books Science and Government and so on. Mind you, I haven't read it. I'm waiting for the play to come. He says, quite rightly, he said, it's no good going up to a scientist and saying to him, as you would to anybody else, you know, good morning, how are you, lend me a quid, and so on. I mean, you just glare at you, or make a rude retort, or something. No, you have to speak to him in language that he'll understand. I mean, you go up to him, you say something like, H2SO4, Professor. Don't synthesize anything I wouldn't synthesize. Oh, and the reciprocal of pi to your good wife. Now, this he will understand. Snow says that nobody can consider themselves educated who doesn't know at least the basic language of science. I mean, things like Sir Edward Boyle's law, for example. The greater the external pressure, the greater the volume of hot air. The second law of thermodynamics. This is very important. I was somewhat shocked the other day to discover that my partner not only doesn't know the second law, he doesn't even know the first law of thermodynamics. Going back to first principles, very briefly, thermodynamics, of course, is derived from 2 Greek words, thermos, meaning hot, if you don't drop it, and dynamics, meaning dynamic work. And thermodynamics is simply the science of heat and work and the relationships between the two, as laid down in the laws of thermodynamics, which may be expressed in the following simple terms, after me, Doctor. The first law of thermodynamics. Heat is work and work is heat.
Heat is work and work is heat.
Very good. The second law of thermodynamics. Heat cannot of itself pass from one body to a hotter body.
Heat cannot of itself pass from one body to a hotter body.
Heat won't pass from a cooler to a hotter.
Heat won't pass from a cooler to a hotter.
You can try it if you like, but you'd far better not.
You can try it if you like, but you're far better not.
Cause the cold in the cooler will get hotter as a ruler.
Cause the cold in the cooler will get hotter as a ruler.
Because the hotter body's heat will pass to the cooler.
Cause the hotter body's heat will pass to the cooler.
Heat is work, and work is heat, and work is heat, and heat is work. Heat will pass by conduction, and the
Heat will pass by conduction.
Heat will pass by convection.
Heat will pass by convection.
Heat will pass by radiation.
Heat will pass by radiation.
And that's a physical law. Heat is work, and work's a curse. And all the heat in the universe is gonna cool down. Because it can't increase, then there'll be no more work, and there'll be perfect peace.
Really?
Yeah, that's entropy, man. And all because of the second law of thermodynamics, which lays down that you can't pass heat from a cooler to a hotter. Try it if you like, you far better.
Cause the cold in the cooler will get hotter as a ruler. Cause the hotter body's heater will pass to the cooler.
You can't pass
from a cooler to a hotter. You try it if you like, but you'll only look a fool. Cause the cold in the cooler will get hotter as a ruler. That's a physical law.
Oh, I'm hot.
What? That's because you've been working.
Oh, Beatles, nothing.
That's the first and second law of thermodynamics.
Hello again. We had to look outside during the interval, see if our car's all right. It's getting a bit old, had to be tested soon. You know, they started these tests for 10-year-old cars. They brought it down to 6, now 5. I think you're bringing it down to 3. There's even been some talk of having them tested before they leave the factories. But it's nearly November the 5th, my goodness. We can always tell. Swann pushed me up the road. We got 1 and 6pence, all in copper. Well, we start off with a very old French folk tune. It's called All Gall, and it'll be sung in 3 parts.
Vive de Gall! This old man, he played one. He played knick-knack at Verdun. Cognac, Armagnac, Burgundy and Bone. This old man came rolling home. This old man, World War II, he told Churchill what to do. 3 French general crosses of Lorraine, he came rolling home again. This old man, he played trois. Vive la France c'est moi. Jim crack governments, call me if you please. Colombey les deux églises. This old man, he played 4. Choose de Gaulle or civil war. Come back president governed by decree. Referendum, oui, oui, oui. This old man, he played 5. France is safe, I'm still alive. Plastique, Pompidou, sing the Marseillaise. Algérie n'est pas français. This old man, he played 6. France and England, they don't mix. I type Benelux, Germany and me. That's my market recipe. This old man set a wheat. NATO, give me back my fleet. And an hour ratified at Bonn. One old man goes on and on. This old man, 9 and 10, he'll play Nick till God knows when. Cognac, Armagnac, Burgundy and Bone. This old man thinks he's St. Joan.
Down with the French-speaking Walloons and freedom for Flanders. That's what I say. It's where my forebears came from, you know. Well, 3 of them, anyway. Who's been sleeping in my porridge? Well, now I think we should leave the fantasy world of the news with all its its fabulous fictional characters like Marylebone Rice Pudding, and Screaming Lord Hume, hooray! That well-known topical comedy team of Dimple Knees and Son. They don't really exist, you know, any more than the Bishop of Woolwich really exists. Just an idea in the mind of God. No, they make them. They make them up, you know. They had to do something, fill up the pages of the newspapers and so on. I mean, we know perfectly well that if there's no newspapers, I mean, if there's a strike or a public holiday or something, nothing happens. It's marvellous. Oh, tempora, oh mores, oh times, oh Daily Mirror. As Lord Denning said in his report, he said, none of this going around saying no smoke without fire, nil combustibus pro fumo. No, I think we should, it's great fun, this whimsical world of current affairs. It's a bit limited, I think, you know. I mean, you wouldn't want a whole evening of it, would you? But I think we should get back to real life now, to the things we see around us every day, like the sky at night, for example. Swann has a song on this very subject, a short song, but nonetheless nauseating.
Well, be that as it may, this song is called My Horoscope. Jupiter's passed through Orion and come into conjunction with Mars. Saturn is wheeling through infinite space to its preordained place in the stars. And I gaze at the planets in wonder at the trouble and time they expend, all to warn me to be careful in dealings involving a friend.
That's more the sort of length I was thinking of, really. What is your zodiacal sign, anyway, my dear chap?
I think I'm a Libra.
Libra, son of a book, are you? My goodness. I always thought of you... Yes. Thought of you more as Aquarius, really, the man who carries the can, you know. And my hat. Yes, I'm Pisces myself, two fishes swimming in opposite directions. Very uncomfortable that can be, too. I'll have a drink of water now. Perhaps you would play something soothing.
I would be
and
pleased.
Peaceful. Yes, bits. No romance, said Juliet. I haven't left school yet. We're friends, just friends, said Samson. Delilah, she's my hairstyler. We're friends, just friends, said Mrs. Fitzherbert. My friend is Prince Regent. I scorn every slur, but one must be obedient. Who's Abelard, said Eloise. He's not my fellow, he's a friend, just a friend, said Hero and Leander. It's nothing but slander. We're chums, just chums, said Troilus and Cressida. Don't believe it, Cressida. We're friends. When they whispered Napoleon pays Josephine's rent. Nonsense, said Bonaparte. She lives on her own apart, in her own apartment, said Orpheus and Eurydice. But that's all sub judice. So guard against gossip and take every care, lest some blameless escutcheon you blot. Such models of friendship are precious and rare, though the friendship of models is not. So much for that, so much for us. Travelling around England, staying in anything from an ordinary, decent family hotel, right the way down to AA recommended. We have, honestly, it seems a shame to intrude on the privacy of some of these hotels. We have noticed noticed again the loveliness of this country, her many great rivers and pools of standing water. This next song is a tribute to them and the many interesting things you may come across in the countryside, if you're not careful.
Oh, when you're walking in the country, far from villages or towns, when you're 7 miles from nowhere and beyond, in some dark deserted forest or a hollow of the downs, you may come across a lonely pool or pond.
And you'll always find a big brass broken bedstead at the back. There's one in every loch or mere or fen. Don't think it's there by accident. It's us you have to thank. The Society of British Bedstead Men. Oh, the hammer ponds of Sussex
and the dew ponds of the west are part of Britain's heritage, the part we love the best. Every eel and fish and mill pond has a beauty organ share, but not unless it's got a big brass broken bedstead there.
So we filch them out of attics, we beg them from our friends, we buy them up in auction lots with other odds and ends. Then we drag them across the meadows when the moon is in the sky. So watch the wall, my darling, while the bedstead men. The League of British Bedstead Men is marching through the night, a desperate and dedicated crew, under cover of the hedges, always keeping out of sight, for the precious load of bedsteads must get through.
The Society for Putting Broken Bedsteads into Ponds has another solemn purpose to fulfill. On our coastal sands and beaches, or where waving willow wands mark the borders of a river, stream, or rill,
You'll always find a single laceless left-hand leather boot. Our bootless British riverbanks are shock. We leave them there at midnight. You can track a member's route by the alternating prints of boot and sock. Oh, the lily ponds of Suffolk and the mill ponds of the West are part of Britain's heritage, the part we love the best. Our riverbanks and seashores have a beauty all can share, provided there's a boot.
provided there's a boot, provided there's at least one boot.
3 treadless tyres, a half-eaten pork pie, some oil drums, an old felt hat, a lorry load of tar blocks,
And a broken bedstead there.
We're often asked, sometimes asked, somebody asked me once, why don't you write a song about flying? It's not a bad idea, really. Swann and I have had to do quite a lot of flying lately, by air. And I must say, it's rather marvellous when you think of it, isn't it, that, if you want to go to New York, say, instead of just lying about for days on end, like in a sort of floating Selfridges, doing nothing, eating far too much, all you have to do is just jump on a plane 17 miles outside London at 2 o'clock in the morning. You can be in New York too late for breakfast and just in time to go to bed at noon. It doesn't take your physical body more than about a week to catch up with this. No, as the airlines say nowadays, flying is very, very safe. It is actually, we can calculate it is safer to fly than it is to cross the road. Mind you, I gave that up years ago where I live, in Kensington, near the air terminal. They have these airline buses whizzing about, I think the drivers have instructions to keep the statistics favourable. The companies do anything to put you at your ease, whether it is our own BO Airways Corporation or Air Linctus or any of those, right from the moment when they send you your ticket, often as much as 6 hours before you're due to leave. And it says on it that you are entitled to 20 kilos of free baggage, There's a wonderful international ring about it, kilos, you know. You can always get down your log rules and slide tables and find out that this is in fact about 44 pounds, give or take an Oz. I always like to weigh everything before I go, and I on my scales. They only weigh up to 10 pounds. They're marked in scruples. But I weigh everything, including the cases, and it usually comes to about 40 pounds. Put the things into the cases, 50 pounds. Can you explain it? It's the only example where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Swann doesn't bother, actually, do you?
No, not really.
So just push anything in. When we came back from Toronto,
Oh, yes.
he had 125 pounds excess baggage. In the end, we had to leave her behind. Lovely girl, known locally as La Belle Dame Sans Merci. The beautiful lady who never says thank you. Anyway, off to the airport. Off to the airport, and you know you're nearly there because you see this big notice saying, "Beware low-flying aircraft." There's not a lot you can do about that. So, you know, take your hat off. Then you go into the lounge and you sit down and a man comes up and tells you that you are on the advanced flight, which sounds marvelous. Till you find out it means you've got to wait for another 4 hours. There's always a good reason for this. Either the plane has been held up in Beirut by some band of marauding riffs, or there's a wind over the Atlantic, something they haven't quite tumbled to yet. What they do on the Air Ministry roof, I do not know. Or else it's an untraced electrical fault, which means they can't find the radio operator. You sit there, you go on waiting there, you know, if you haven't had smallpox, and filling in your landing card next door to this big machine saying, "Insure your life for £250, you know. Loss of both limbs, half price." Until finally you hear a voice through the loudspeaker saying, so you do that. It's all aboard the mystery bus tour, and off we go to the middle of the field. They're very helpful about this, because I have a particular problem about this, you know, getting up this very steep gangway with the wheelchair's on. So they're very nice, they're very helpful. They find out exactly which gangway is nearest to my seat. Then they take me up the other one. Actually, do them justice, last time they took me up through the kitchen entrance on a forklift. Very stately, you know, like why they need a great machine like that just to lift forks, well, they're only made of plastic, aren't they? Well, you go in and you find your seat and you sit down and you stop smoking and you fasten your safety belt. And you take your hand baggage out of the hand baggage rack and put it on the floor. They're very particular about this. And then a very nice lady comes and tells you what to do when you come down in the water, and what to do when you stop breathing, and finally it's time to go. And it chocks away, and they start up the engines, you know, shh, and the whole plane starts to shake like this. It's like a cat after a pigeon, you know. But I'm never worried, because I know that every tiny part of this great machine is a miracle of modern engineering. Then the ashtray falls off. Oh, I think I agree with the old lady who said that if God had intended us to fly, he would never have given us the railways. So instead, we have written a song about the railways. This is rather thank you. Unusual song this for us, perhaps, because it's really quite a serious song, and it was suggested by all those marvellous old local railway stations with their wonderful evocative names, all due to be, you know, axed and done away with one by one. And these are stations that we shall no longer be seeing when we aren't able to travel anymore on the slow train. Millersdale for Tideswell, Kirby Muxlow, Malcop and Scholar Green. No more will I go
Blandford Forum and Morty Ho. On the slow train from Midsummer Norton and Mumby Road. No churns, no porter, no cat on a seat at Chorlton come Harney or Chester le Street. We won't be meeting again on the slow train. I'll travel no more from Littleton Badsey to Openshaw. At Long Stanton I'll stand well clear of the doors no more. No whitewashed pebbles, no up and no down, from Formby Four Crosses to Dunstable Town. I won't be going again on the slow train. On the main line and the good siding, the grass grows high. At Dogdyke, Tumby Woodside, and Trouble House Halt. The sleepers sleep at Audlam and Ambergate. No passenger waits on Chittering platform or Cheslin Hay. No one departs, no one arrives, from Selby to Goole, from St. Earth to St. Ives. They've all passed out of our lives on the slow train, on the slow train.
Cockermouth for Buttermere,
On the slow train,
Armley Moor, Aram, Pye Hill and Summercoats,
on the slow train.
Windmill End. You know, it's a curious thing, I don't know if you ever thought of this, but England hasn't really got a national song. Well, you know, just for England. There's plenty for Great Britain, but that's quite different. You have to be very careful how you use those terms too. The rule is, if we've done anything good, it's another triumph for Great Britain. And if we haven't, it's England loses again. Have you noticed that? All the others, they got songs about their countries, you know, the Scots, like Scotland for I, or for me, as it should more properly be. And the Welsh and the Irish have got songs saying how marvellous they are, making rude remarks about the English in their own languages. In the case of the Welsh, I think this is the pot calling the saucepan vach. What English national song have we got? Jerusalem. There'll always be an England. Well, that's not saying much, is it? I mean, there'll always be a North Pole. Some dangerous clown doesn't go and melt it. No, I think the reason for this is that in the old days, you know, the good old days when I was a boy, we didn't bother in England about nationalism. I mean, nationalism was on its way out. We got pretty well everything we wanted, and we didn't go around saying how marvellous we were. Everybody knew that. Any more than we bothered to put our names on our stamps. I mean, there's only two kinds of stamps. English stamps, in sets, at the beginning of the album, foreign stamps, all mixed up at the other. Any Gibbon could tell you that. But nowadays, nationalism is on the up and up, and everybody has a national song. But us Americans have national songs, like My Country 'Tis of Thee, which they sing to the tune of God Save the Queen, I may say, and which, together with their long-range forecasting of our weather, I find hard to believe. Yes. The Germans, whatever you say about the Germans, and who doesn't, they're marvellous. What a marvellous song that was. German overalls. Now there's well, the moment has come, and none too soon. We have a song here. Which I think fills this long-felt want, and I hope that all true-born English men and women in our audience will join in the last chorus. And if you don't have the good fortune to be English true-born, or a man or a woman,
I hope you'll join in as an ordinary mark of simple, decent respect. This song starts with, I think, very typical English understatement. The English, the English, the English are best. I wouldn't give tuppence for all of the rest. The rottenest bits of these islands of ours we've left in the hands of three unfriendly powers. Examine the Irishman, Welshman or Scot, you'll find he's a stinker as likely as not. Okay, why are we on it for a festival? The Scotsman is mean, as we're all well aware, and bony and blotchy and covered with hair. He eats salty porridge, he works all the day, and he hasn't got bishops to show him the way. The English, the English, the English are best. I wouldn't give tuppence for all of the rest. Or hit the old mother over the head with a shillelagh. The Irishman now our contempt is beneath. He sleeps in his boots and he lies in his teeth. He blows up policemen, or so I have heard, and blames it on Cromwell and William III. The English are noble, the English are nice, and worth any other at double the price. Oh, yachida. The Welshman's dishonest, he cheats when he can, and little and dark, more like monkey than man. He works underground with a lamp in his hat, and he sings far too loud, far too often, and flat. And crossing the channel, one cannot say much for the French or the Spanish, the Danish or Dutch. The Germans are German, the Russians are red, and the Greeks and Italians eat garlic in bed. The English are moral, the English are good, and clever and modest and misunderstood. And all the world over, each nation's the same. They've simply no notion of playing the game. They argue with umpires, they cheer when they've won, and they practice beforehand, which ruins the fun. The English, the English, the English are best, so up with the English and down with the rest. It's not that they're wicked or naturally bad, it's knowing they're foreign that makes them so mad. For the English are all that a nation should be, and the flower of the English are Donald, Michael, Donald, Michael, and me.
Given the slightest encouragement, we like to end up with another one. This is some more news of our old friend, the hippopotamus.
The amorous hippopotamus, whose love song we know, is now married and father of 10. He murmurs God rotten as he watches them grow, and he longs to be single again. He'll gamble no more on the banks of the Nile, which Nasser is flooding next spring, with hippopotamus in silken pajamas. No more will he teach them to sing. That's you.